The first thing I felt was the cold, not the gentle chill of a winter morning, but the bone-deep cold of a room that had never known proper heating. The second thing I felt was the pain, a dull, throbbing ache that seemed to radiate from every joint in my body. My head pounded, my throat was raw, and when I tried to move, my muscles screamed in protest. I opened my eyes. The room was a proper noble's chamber, though sparse and neglected. Moonlight filtered through a cracked window, casting pale silver stripes across the floor. Dust motes danced in the beams, and the air smelled of medicine, old wood, and the faint, lingering scent of decay. This isn't my apartment. The thought came slowly, drifting up through the fog of my confusion. My apartment had been a cramped studio in a rundown part of the city. The ceilings were low, the walls were thin, and the only view was of the brick wall of the neighboring building. I'd spent 5 years in that place, scraping together enough money for rent and food, surviving on instant noodles and the fading memories of a life I'd once had, a wife, a daughter, a career. All gone now, all taken from me by men in suits who wanted me to cook the books, and when I refused, they destroyed me. Blacklisted, divorced alone, and then in a dark alley on a rainy night, a knife in the stomach. A hit they'd waited 3 years to carry out, just to make sure no one would connect it to them. I died in that alley. I remembered the wet cobblestones, the metallic taste of blood, the fading sound of footsteps. My last thought had been bitter. If I'd been smarter, more ruthless, maybe I could have won. But this wasn't the alley. The cold stone beneath me was different. The air smelled of medicine and old wood. And this wasn't my body. I looked down at my hands. Pale, long-fingered, trembling. Not the calloused hands of a man who'd spent years hunched over a keyboard. These were the hands of someone young, someone who'd never worked a day in his life, and yet they felt familiar. Foreign and familiar at the same time, like wearing someone else's clothes. This isn't my body. This isn't my life. A flood of foreign memories rushed through my mind. A different childhood, a different family, a different name. I saw a young boy with silver hair and blue eyes running through the halls of a grand manor. I saw a mother, a servant girl, beautiful and kind, who died when he was 6. I saw a father who never looked at him with anything but shame. A stepmother who smiled with her lips and poisoned him with her eyes. A half-brother who took pleasure in cruelty. A sister who controlled the money and didn't care about anyone else. And a girl, a childhood friend who'd watched over him since they were children, whose worried face now hovered at the edge of my fading memories. His name was William Habsburg, bastard son of Duke Aldous, Duke of Maple City, 18 years old. Poisoned slowly over the course of months by the woman who killed his mother. Died of a fever an hour ago. A sharp knock on the door broke the silence. "My lord, are you awake? The Duke has summoned you." I sat up slowly, feeling the room spin around me. My hands gripped the rough wool blanket, steadying myself. The hearing. Right? The day they would send me to the wastes, just like in the strategy games I used to play. Crusader Kings, Total War, Civilization. But this wasn't a game. This was real, and the stakes were my life. I forced myself out of bed, staggering as my legs nearly gave out. My body was weak, malnourished, ravaged by the slow poison placed in my meals. My stepmother, through the servants, had been putting it in my food. But my mind was sharp, sharper than it had ever been. 5 years of playing strategy games, of reading history, of studying how empires rise and fall, all of that was still there, all of that was mine. They want me to die. They want my inheritance, and that's what this is. But they don't know who I really am. They don't know what I know in my last life. I played by the rules and lost everything. But here, I intend to make up for all I lost. The door swung open, and Elena stepped inside. She was a plain girl, maybe 17, with brown hair pulled back in a simple bun and eyes that held too much worry for someone her age. She carried a basin of water, a cloth, and a clean tunic. "My lord, please, you're not well. Let me help you." I looked at her, and for a moment, the foreign memories surged again. The previous William had loved this girl, loved her with the quiet devotion of a man who had nothing else to hold on to. He'd never told her. He'd been too scared, too broken, too beaten down by years of humiliation. But now, I was in control. And I saw something else in Elena's eyes. Loyalty and devotion. She helped me dress, her hands gentle but efficient. As she worked, she spoke in hushed tones, telling me what she'd overheard in the servants' quarters. The Duke's advisors had been meeting in private. The stepmother, Lady Victoria, had been making all the arrangements. She'd been speaking of how I was destined for greatness in the north. "I heard them, my lord. They're planning to send you to the hellish wastes. They call it pioneering work, but everyone knows it's exile. Death. They're sending you to die, William." I didn't flinch. I didn't show any emotion at all. Instead, I looked at myself in the cracked mirror on the wall. Silver hair, blue eyes, pale skin, the face of a boy who'd been beaten down his entire life. But there was something else in those eyes now. Something cold, something calculating. "Let them try. The Great Hall of House Habsburg had witnessed many things in its centuries of existence. Wars, weddings, funerals, betrayals. But today, it would witness something it had never seen before. A boy assumed to be incapable of walking strode into the hall unassisted. I, William Habsburg, the bastard, the weakling, the failure, walked through those doors with my head high. My silver hair bounced as I strode towards the throne. My blue eyes were clear. I'd been dressed in a simple black tunic, the only fine clothing left in my sparse wardrobe. I looked like a man who had a fresh lease on life and nothing to lose. The whispers began as soon as I entered. They'd expected me to be carried in, or not to show up at all. I was standing tall in front of my stepmother, who was shocked to see me healthy and sound. That made her nervous. Well, the sickly lamb has risen from his deathbed. I'm touched, truly. I was worried I'd have to send the servants to carry you in. My half-brother Ashford's voice dripped with mockery. The golden son of House Habsburg, charming, handsome, and utterly vicious. He'd murdered the original William's mother in collaboration with his mother, and taken pleasure in the cruelty. I wouldn't want to disappoint you, brother. I know how much you look forward to seeing me. The response was unexpected. The old William would have flinched, would have hung his head in shame. I just stood there, staring at him with cold blue eyes. Ashford's smirk flickered just slightly. Duke Aldous Habsburg sat at the head of his golden throne, slumped in his chair like a man already dead. Once a mighty man, but now broken hollow, a man who'd given up his estate years ago. He knew the truth about the evil scheming and plotting of his wife. But he was too weak to act, too cowardly to speak. His guilt made him controllable, and Duchess Victoria knew exactly how to control him. William, I have called you here because you are now of age and it is time for you to fulfill your duty to this house. The words were mechanical, rehearsed. The Duke didn't even look at me. The North needs to be reclaimed. The Empire has called for pioneers. And you, William Habsburg, will answer that call on behalf of House Habsburg. I was being exiled, banished to a land of monsters and death, where every previous expedition had ended in annihilation. The hellish wastes, they called it. The cursed North, a place so corrupted that even the spiritual center had declared it beyond salvation. The family had been planning this for months. They debated which of the sons to sacrifice, and in the end, the bastard was the obvious choice. No one would miss me. No one would mourn me. And when I died, as I inevitably would, they would divide my inheritance among themselves and celebrate. To assist you in this noble endeavor, House Habsburg has set aside 1,500 gold coins and 4 servants. It is a generous gift. The stepmother's voice was honey and venom. Duchess Victoria Habsburg was the real power in this house. She'd orchestrated everything, the poisoning, the exile, the slow destruction of her husband's will. Her son was her puppet, her daughter was her pawn, and I was the obstacle she'd been trying to remove for years. I waited for my father to continue, but he signaled me to speak. Generous. Father, you're sending me to the wastes with 1,500 gold and a few servants. My brother received Wasteland City with a full treasury and 1,000 soldiers. My sister was given trade routes worth 600,000 gold a year. And none of what they do is half as dangerous as what I am now sent to do. Surely, Father, I deserve more than this. The hall fell silent. No one had ever heard me speak like this before. I spoke like a diplomat, like someone that had planned many wars, or someone that was responsible for managing an entire estate. Even the stepmother was shocked. Everyone was expecting me to just accept my fate because that is what I usually did. But I was different now. Duke Aldous shifted uncomfortably. But before he could speak, the Duchess cut in. Greed is no virtue in a noble dear boy. You've received quite enough. I've received quite enough of your poison, you mean? The words hit the room like a thunderbolt. Victoria's face went pale. Ashford's hand moved to his sword. The guard shifted nervously. But I just stood there, calm as still water. You think I don't know what you've been doing? You think I don't know that you have been slowly poisoning me? I let the words hang in the air, watching their faces twist with confusion and fear. But don't worry. I'm not here to accuse anyone. I'm here to accept your generous offer. I'll go north. I'll pioneer the wastes. And when I come back, healthy and sound, I'll be bringing an army with me. I requested to take my leave, and my father raised his hands and bade me farewell. I turned and strode forward as the whole room looked at me in awe. My father's eyes were hopeful. In his soul, he was happy that I could finally stand up for myself. And in his heart, he could only wish that the child he ignored would survive the dangerous north and come back worthy to be called a Habsburg. The walk back to my chambers was a blur. My legs were shaking. My heart was pounding. But my mind was clear. I'd done what I needed to do. I'd planted the seeds of doubt in the entire family and showed them that I wasn't the same weak, broken boy. And now I needed to prepare. Alina caught up with me in the corridor, her face white with terror. She supported me as I walked towards my chambers. What did you do? They'll kill you. I know. You're still going north? I stopped and turned to face her. My cold blue eyes softened just a fraction. Alina, I've been given a second chance and I'm not going to waste it. The North is a death sentence to them. But to me, it's an opportunity. A kingdom waiting to be claimed. And I'm going to claim it. But you have nothing? No army, no supplies, no protection. I smiled. It was a cold, calculating smile. I have 1,500 gold coins, I have you. And I have something they don't. I reached out and placed my hand on her shoulder. Come with me. Help me build something. Something new. Something better than this rotting empire. I can't promise you safety and comfort for now, but I can promise you that you'll never have to bow to anyone again. She stared at me for a long moment, searching my eyes for something. Hope, madness, truth. And finally she nodded. Where do we start? First, we go to the slave market. We need soldiers, craftsmen, managers. And we need to find talented people. Talented people are hard to find. The empire gathers them all for themselves. I smiled again. Leave that to me. I have a way of finding gems in the dirt. As I sat down on my bed alone, I called up my ledger, a blue, invisible screen that gave me information about myself, about opportunities, about danger, resources, talents close by. It also came with a custom map that kept updating as my eyes saw new lands and territories. The system flickered before me, and as I closed my eyes to sleep, my last thought was, in my old life, I played by the rules and lost everything. Here, there are no rules like the other life, so I intend to gain all I lost in this new life. Tomorrow, the real game begins.